Friends, welcome to Mysterious Stories. Friends, in Yukon, there is a wide territory covered in deep forests and tall mountains that spread for miles. It is one of the most beautiful wilderness places in Canada, but it is also one of the most isolated. Despite its untamed nature, over 48,000 people reside in this area. Life here is quiet and natural, yet it is not without peril. Yukon is well known for its big grizzly population. Thousands of black and grizzly bears call the region home. Wildlife scientists believe that this habitat is home to approximately 10,000 black bears and 7,000 grizzly bears. As a result, warning signs are posted in numerous locations to advise residents and visitors how to keep safe from bears. These signs caution visitors to be cautious since encounters with bears might occur unexpectedly. Locals and tourists are equally aware that these animals are fierce and unpredictable. Bear assaults on humans are uncommon, but they do occur, particularly in remote wilderness areas where people and wildlife coexist. Back in 2014, a married couple lived in this distant wilderness. Their names were Matthias and Claudia Leninger. The couple had built a little but lovely wooden home deep in the forest, distant from the hustle and bustle of city life. They enjoyed living near to nature, surrounded by mountains, trees, and wildlife. Their lifestyle was modest and quiet. Matthias and Claudia supported themselves financially by running a small online business that offered handmade garments and other products over the internet. Tourists visiting the Yukon wilderness would occasionally purchase these products as well. For the pair, everything was great. They preferred a calm life in nature, away from bustling towns and noisy streets. However, everything changed because of a single horrible event. It was October 2014, at 11 a.m. Matthias was outside the cabin doing some work, while Claudia was inside. Suddenly, their dog began barking loudly and repeatedly. The barking seemed odd and urgent. Claudia approached the window to see what had disturbed the dog. She was taken aback and horrified when she looked outside. A large grizzly bear was just outside the window. The animal was staring right at her through the glass. Grizzly bears are among North America's most powerful carnivores, and approaching one at such close range is highly perilous. The bear carefully put its nose against the window, then began pushing against it with its weight. It appeared curious, but also aggressive, possibly looking for food. Claudia recognized at that time that the bear might regard her as a food source. The glass window was not intended to sustain the force of a huge grizzly bear. As the bear continued to push on it, a break formed in the glass. Claudia moved back in dread, but before she could respond or consider what to do next, the bear rammed its weight into the window. The glass smashed to pieces. Within seconds, the bear had broken into the cabin. Panicking, Claudia dashed to the back door of the home and rushed outside. She was bewildered and afraid, attempting to flee as swiftly as possible. But the bear had already entered the cabin and started chasing her. Claudia observed their parked automobile close. She dashed towards it, opened the door, and leaped inside. For a time, she thought she was safe. But the bear followed her. The massive grizzly approached the automobile and stood just in front of it. It had grown really aggressive. Soon, the bear climbed onto the roof of the car and began scratching and tearing at the metal with its enormous paws. The beast was so strong that it began to dent and damage the roof. Claudia felt helpless inside the automobile. She could see the bear above her and knew that if it broke through the car, she had no chance of surviving. In those dreadful moments, it felt like death was looming in front of her. Meanwhile, Matthias felt something was very wrong. He promptly got into another vehicle and headed to the spot. When he arrived, he discovered the bear on top of the car in which his wife was imprisoned. Matthias attempted to scare away the bear by blowing the automobile horn aggressively. The abrupt commotion appeared to shock the animal, prompting it to climb down from the car. Claudia saw an opportunity and swiftly opened the automobile door, attempting to dash toward her husband's vehicle. But before she could get to it, the bear struck again. The enormous grizzly pounced at her, knocking her to the ground. The situation had escalated to the point where the bear might have killed her in seconds. Matthias went into the cabin, grabbed his weapon, and dashed back outdoors, realizing he had no other choice. Claudia had already been snatched by the bear, who was dragging her toward the forest. Matthias fired his weapon at the bear, hoping to save his wife. Then he took 3 more bullets. 2 of the rounds hit the bear immediately. The animal fell and perished. However, the 3rd bullet took a disastrous route. It struck a nearby tree, ricocheted, and hit Claudia in the chest. Matthias never believed that such a thing could happen. In the midst of the confusion and terror, all he wanted to do was save his wife's life. Instead, the ricocheted bullet seriously injured her. Claudia was still alive, but badly injured. Matthias swiftly grabbed her up, put her in the car, and drove as soon as possible to the nearest medical facility. However, there was another significant issue. The couple lived far in the forest. The Teslin Health Centre, almost 50 kilometers away, was the nearest medical facility. Matthias drove the entire journey, hoping that physicians could rescue her. When they arrived, medics quickly began treating Claudia and did everything possible to preserve her life. Unfortunately, her injuries were too serious. Claudia Leninger died shortly afterwards. Matthias was devastated. He couldn't believe their tranquil and joyful life had been ruined so quickly. What began as a peaceful morning in the wilderness had devolved into a tragic catastrophe. Later investigations uncovered critical details regarding the attack. Claudia feigned to be dead when the bear initially attacked her, expecting that it would leave her alone. Matthias had told her earlier to do this while he hurried to retrieve his revolver. However, experts later stated that this might not have been the wisest solution. Depending on the bear's behavior, it may be safer to fight back, use bear spray, or protect the head and neck than to pretend to be dead. Matthias later recognized that he had given incorrect counsel. He had lived in the Yukon bush for many years and was aware of the dangers of wildlife interactions. But in that moment of extreme stress, seeing his wife crying and being attacked, he was unable to think straight. When authorities investigated the dead bear, they discovered it was approximately 38 years old. The animal's health was not ideal, but it was not malnourished either. It still retained fat stores in its body, suggesting that hunger was not the primary motive for the attack. Despite what had happened, Matthias later stated that he did not blame the bear. He recognized that he and his wife were living in the animal's natural environment. The bear was only following its instincts as a wild animal. Claudia's terrible demise, however, stunned the local community and terrified many tourists visiting Yukon. The region is home to thousands of bears, and while assaults are uncommon, there is always a risk wherever humans reside or travel in natural areas. Authorities strongly warn Yukon residents to carry bear spray, travel in groups, keep campsites clean, and avoid leaving food that may attract wildlife. If a bear approaches, people are instructed to make loud noises to scare it off. Bear attacks in the Yukon region have occurred in previous years, including 1996, 2006, 2014, and 2018. In most cases, experts argue that the bears are not genuinely to blame. They are wild animals that simply exist in their own territory. Humans are the ones who enter and live in such environment. Unfortunately, The tragedy of Claudia Leninger is still one of the most heartbreaking examples of how unpredictable life in the bush can be. The incident began with a bear assault, but Claudia died as a result of an unintentional bullet fired by her husband while attempting to save her life. If you enjoyed this case, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell button to stay up to date on our next investigation into the world's most perplexing crimes. Thank you for watching. Remember that justice delayed is not justice denied. Stay safe and interested, and I'll see you at the next one.